Hello and welcome to Byju's Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Before we start with our today's practice questions, we have two important announcements. The first is in reference to the weekly current affairs explained session. As part of this session, today's topic discussion would be Chief Justice of India. Please do tune in live on our YouTube channel at 8 p.m. so that you understand everything about this topic. The second is in reference to Byju's Exam Prep's offline workshop. If you are in any of these cities, one is in Delhi, the second happens to be in Lucknow, third happens to be Hyderabad, fourth happens to be Chennai. If you are in any of these cities, please do attend our offline workshop where you will have a mock test between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. and IAS workshop between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. So if you are in any of these cities, please do visit our offline workshops. Let's get started and look into the first question. Consider the following statements with respect to green crackers categories. Swaz suppresses dust by releasing water vapor in the air. Star releases less particulate matter and reduces sound intensity. Shuffle minimal use of aluminium and has more of magnesium instead. It produces less sound as compared to the traditional firecrackers. Which of the statements given above are correct? The answer to this is 1, 2 and 3. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the green crackers. What are these green crackers? When you consider the traditional crackers, whenever it is burst, what it releases is a lot of pollutants, and people in that particular area who inhale this air will also be breathing polluted air, and this will also have health related impact as well. In order to avoid it, what the government of India along with multiple organizations came up with is called as the green crackers. So with an aim to control the increasing air pollution, green crackers are being developed. They are eco-friendly, do not comprise components that can be harmful for the environment. These have been developed by the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, and an agreement has been also signed with around 230 companies for manufacturing and selling these into the market. So the green crackers are expected to cause at least 30% less air pollution in comparison to the traditional firecrackers. If we have to categorize the green crackers, this can be broadly categorized into three forms. What are those? One is what is called a swaz. Second is what is called a star type of crackers. Third is what is called a shuffle. So if we are speaking about swaz, these are the crackers which will suppress dust by releasing water vapor in the air. This is the first category, which is right. Then we have the second category, which releases less particulate matter and reduces the sound intensity. This statement is also right. And when we speak about shuffle, it is nothing but those crackers which make minimal use of aluminium and has more of magnesium used in those crackers. So green crackers are the one which have been developed by the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. What is the difference between traditional and green crackers? When it comes to the composition, a traditional firecracker comprises of 6 key elements: fuel, mainly charcoal or thermite; oxidizing agents, nitrates and chlorates; reducing agents, something like sulfur, which can burn the oxygen present in the firecracker; regulators, to ensure the speed and intensity with which a cracker bursts; and when it comes to coloring, they make use of strontium salts, burning of metals, sodium salts, barium salts, calcium salts, as well as the copper salt. So in the traditional one, what we have is enormous release of the pollutants, but when it comes to the green crackers, it is comparatively less. Now let's look into the next practice question. Consider the following pairs. We have embroidery on one side, the state it is practiced on the other side. Kasuti, Telangana; King, Arunachal Pradesh; Pipli, Odisha; Sosni, Jammu and Kashmir. How many pairs given above are correctly matched? The answer to this is only 2 pairs. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to Sosni embroidery. So this article here is speaking about different artworks. But what is our focus today? It is with respect to the different kinds of embroidery. If we look at the embroideries of multiple states in India, we have Sosni, Krul, Gaba, Tila, Ari work, Rexar, Kashinda, Amli and Mochi, which is from the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Next in line is King, which happens to be Meghalaya. And from West Bengal, we have Kanta, Nakshikanta, Balaposh and Balachuri. And Pipli is from the state of Odisha. And from the state of Karnataka, what we have is Kasuti. So what have we given in the practice question? We are speaking about Kenang, which is not from Arunachal Pradesh. And then we have Kasuti, which is not from Telangana. Since two are wrongly matched and two are rightly matched, the answer to this would be B, that is only two pairs. Now let's look into the next practice question. India's first sanctuary for slender loris will be set up in which amongst the following states? Andhra Pradesh, Goa, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu. The answer to this is Tamil Nadu. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the slender loris sanctuary. The Tamil Nadu government recently has notified setting up the country's first slender loris sanctuary. What is this loris? This happens to be a small nocturnal primate. Where does it live? It lives in the deciduous forests of southern India, and few are also present in Sri Lanka as well. This loris happens to be a tree animal spending most of its lives on the trees. They prefer to inhabit thick thorny bushes, and they also live on the bamboo clumps as well. What is the significance of this particular species? Their diet basically includes feeding on the insects, eggs of the bird, so on and so forth. Since this slender loris acts as a biological predator of pests, they benefit the farmers in protecting agricultural crops from the pests. But there are threats to this particular species as well. One is the loss of the habitat. Second is they are hunted for the medicinal purposes and black magic rituals as well. And with growing industrialization, we are hitting on those areas and their habitat, and as a result their numbers are decreasing over a period of time, which is why we have the Tamil Nadu government which has recently notified setting up the country's first slender loris sanctuary so that they are protected. If you look into the IUCN status of this species happens to be endangered, and they are safeguarded in Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. This can also be important from the preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look into the next practice question. With respect to Interpol, which of the following statements are incorrect? It has its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. The Research and Analysis Wing is designated as the National Central Bureau of India. Which of the statements are incorrect? Since it is asking for the incorrect statement, the answer to this is both. Why have we taken this practice question? Because this article on the Hindu makes a reference to the Interpol. Let us try and understand what are these options. When you look into the first option, it says it has its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland. This happens to be a wrong statement. When we speak about headquarters, it is present in Lyon in France and it is not Geneva. So the first statement is wrong. When you look into the second statement, it is not the RAW or the Research and the Analysis Wing, but instead it is the Central Bureau of Investigation, which happens to be designated as the National Central Bureau of India. So these two statements are wrong, and as a result the answer to this would be C, which is both. Now if we speak about Interpol, it was established in 1923. It enables cross-border police cooperation, supports and assists all organizations, authorities and services whose mission is to prevent or combat international crime. How do we coordinate amongst countries? What if there is a person who happens to be a murderer, or there is organized crime, or there is smuggling that is happening between one country to another? How do we coordinate? To coordinate all these activities between one country and another, what we have is the Interpol. Interpol has an objective to facilitate international police cooperation even where diplomatic relations are not present between the certain countries. What they have is called as the different kinds of notices. The red notice happens to seek the location or arrest of a person wanted by a judicial jurisdiction or an international tribunal with a view to his extradition. Then we have green notice to warn about a person's criminal activities, blue notice to locate, identify or obtain information on a person of interest in a criminal investigation, yellow notice to locate a missing person or to identify a person unable to identify himself or herself, black notice to seek information on unidentified bodies, orange notice to warn of an event, a person or an object or a process representing an imminent threat and danger to persons or property. Purple notice to provide information on modus operandi, procedures, objects, devices or hiding places used by criminals. And we have an Interpol UNSC special notice to inform Interpol's members that an individual or an entity is subject to UN sanctions. These are some of the important pointers from the preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look into the next practice question. If a major solar flare reaches the Earth, which of the following are the possible effects on Earth? GPS and navigation systems could fail. Tsunamis could occur at equatorial regions. Power grids could be damaged. Intense auroras could occur over much of the Earth. Forest fires could take place over much of the planet. Orbits of the satellites could be disturbed. Shortwave radio communication of the aircraft flying over polar regions could be interrupted. Whenever you look at such questions, what you also have to do is look at what is called as the elimination method. What is this elimination method? You have one of the statements that is given. You're for sure that particular statement is wrong. If you look into this particular question, the second statement reads, tsunamis could occur at equatorial regions. Solar storm and tsunamis is nothing and there is no link to this. So what we have to do is eliminate statement 2. When you eliminate statement 2, 2 is in option A, 2 is in option B, 2 is also in option D as well. The only option where you do not have statement 2 happens to be C. So in this question, the right answer would be C, primarily because the second statement is wrong. This is how you make use of what is called as the elimination method. So for sure, you know that one of the statements is wrong, eliminate that, and whatever is left out will be your final answer. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2022. Now let's look into the fact of the day. The fact of the day for today's discussion is forest conservation rules. We have the Government of India which had released forest conservation rules of 2022. What is the structure of this forest conservation rules? They will set up what is called as the screening committee. What is the screening committee? This will meet at least twice every month, advise the state governments on projects in a time-bound manner. The committee will examine every proposal received from state governments or administrations of union territories without going into the merit of the proposal. The committee will review whether proposal is complete in all aspects and its location concerning the restricted areas of category. So if a project is to be implemented in a particular forest heartland or in a particular area, whether this particular project has to take place in that area will be decided by the screening committee. So this screening committee will look into the proposal and only after it gives the due consent, it can be proceeded. It describes a time frame for review of different kinds of projects. All non-mining projects must be reviewed within a period of 60 days and all such mining projects must be reviewed within 75 days. In the case of projects involving a larger area, the committee gets some more time, 120 days for non-mining projects involving more than 100 hectares and 150 days for the mining projects. If the area that is required for that particular project is far in excess, in that case, the time period can also be extended so that this screening committee looks at the pros and cons of that particular project. The project screening committee will be headed by a nodal officer, will have a district collector and conservator of forests who will advise on projects and will have to do initial screening to save the time. Then what we will have is the establishment of the advisory committee. The role of the advisory committee is to advise or recommend matters related to the conservation forest referred to it by the central government with regard to grant of approval under relevant sections of the different proposals. It consists of 6 members and this will be headed by a chairman. Finally, what we will have is a regional empowered committee. It also provides for the establishment of regional empowered committee at each of the integrated regional offices. An important change introduced in the new rules is that all linear projects like roads and highways, projects involving forest land up to 40 hectares and those that have projected use of forest land having a canopy density of up to 0.7 irrespective of their extent for survey shall be examined in the integrated regional office. So basically what we will have is the 3 committees that will be established. But this article currently goes on to voice certain concerns with respect to these new rules. What are the concerns voiced by the National Commission for the Scheduled Tribes? They go on to say that the new rules initiated by the Government of India will now allow all the private players. These private players will now be able to clear the forest land for the compensatory afforestation and development and infrastructure project without taking the prior consent of the Grama Sabhas, and as a result, they're not taking the consent. This means it is violating the Forest Rights Act. Earlier, the union government was required to take the consent of the communities instead of approving the project, but now the private companies would be able to start their project, and now the consent of the Grama Sabhas need not be taken in the initial stage. Now it can approve the handover of the forest land, collect the payment from the private dweller even before the state government obtains the approval of the forest dwellers. This basically means the rules not only violate the Forest Rights Act, but it also violates the guidelines initiated by the Government of India back in the year 2009, which said that prior consultation with Grama Sabhas is essential before any decision on the diversion of the forest land. So this means that the government rules are in violation to the existing legal regime, says the National Commission for Scheduled Tribes. So what is it requesting the Government of India? It is requesting the Government of India to reconsider its own rules that have been made with respect to the forest dwellers as well as the consent taken by these communities as well as the Grama Sabhas. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.